Hello, my name is Hannah Alfieri. This is an interview about flashbacks for the Gainesville Business History Oral History Project, run by the Inquire Capitalism program of the History Department at the University of Florida. Understand that for us and for the public, the information you are providing is a gift and it is incredible. It is an incredible historical resource and we dearly appreciate it. This interview will be available as part of the UF Oral History Collections and through UF Digital Collections and YouTube. So, could you please introduce yourself? What's your full name and could you please spell it?
My name is Steve Nichtberger. My last name is spelled Nichtberger. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? I forget.
So, before we jump in, we want to talk a little bit about you. Could you describe how you came to Gainesville?
UF. Any other questions?
Yeah. Could you describe your time at UF? Did you complete your degree?
Yeah, I got a BSBA CIS with a few minors, but the thing was in 1982 when I graduated, there weren't many computer grads back then. They were punch card era. We're talking my snowball compiler was done in punch cards. I had two large boxes. It was crazy. But back then, they were hiring everybody and anybody because, it wasn't that easy, but they were competing over the graduates. And I just started hanging out and seeing the people I would be working with and realized that wasn't my life. I got offers. Fortunately, it was a recession. I got a letter, and most every company said, due to the recession, we're pausing our hiring 6 months. You'll offer good as good in 6 months, but that 6 months gave me a lot. I didn't already knew what I was doing, but those 6 months gave me a lot of time to think and say, I don't think I'll be happy. So I went in a different direction.
And do you have any siblings and did they also come to UF?
My older brother went to UF 4 years before he graduated. The year I got here in 1977, he went on. He started a company and sold it to a Fortune 500 company, retired when he was 49. So I guess we're an entrepreneurial family. My dad had this too.
Yeah, so moving a little bit, I guess, further in history, could you tell us why and when you started Flashbacks?
I just told you a little bit of why. Really, what it was at the time was I was actually with some friends and we were all just talking about what we're doing, and actually it started out more as a cooperative. There were a bunch of us, and in 1983-ish we got together, started meeting, and after every Sunday we'd meet, and after a year and a half, I remember I got up and said, we're no richer now, we're just as broke, we're not getting anywhere. We've wasted a year and a half time, we have to either come up with ideas or shit or get off the pot. Half the people left, seriously. And everybody came up with ideas. I was married. I'm on my lifetime marriage now. But my first wife, Debbie, said at the time, I was trying to think of something that was impactful to the environment, because I was starting to see what we were doing. It didn't seem very evident to most people at the time, but I didn't really think it was going to last. I thought it was going to be a short-term endeavor. And what happened is there were 4 or 5 of us who started it, and quickly, it was just myself, and I was married. I got divorced, and she's like, I can't run the business, so I took it and I run it for most of its history. That was the start of it, but really the start of it was, I like to joke about this. People have said to me, how did you see and I was like, I was just blind, stupid luck. It was not stupid luck in the sense of I was looking for ways to not be impactful. In my early ads, I used to say, we create nothing, we destroy nothing, we give away a few bags along the way. And that was the goal, and that's where it started. But what happened, there's so many, I talked to Tatum, and she told me you'd asked her about the history. It was a different world. I'm going to skip that question now because I'm sure you'll ask it, but it was a different world. I'm trying to think of the proper word, zeitgeist, whatever. The social conscious at the time was, if you sold or bought used clothes, you were poor, you were in need. It was not a thing of style. It wasn't saving the world. It was, you're poor. And so when I started, the most common question I answered the first year I was open, is this Goodwill or Salvation? Are they used? Ooh, is this Goodwill or Salvation Army? And I had to explain what a consignment shop was, blah, blah. So I had a sign on the back of the door for a bit. It said, if you're running out because you are afraid to wear used clothes, you probably should think about eating at restaurants or sleeping in hotels, because that you can wash these clothes, dry them, sanitize them. You're putting that fork in your mouth. Was it even washed? How many mouths was it in? Not even just bodies. So I had people turn around and go, I can't unsee this. Long story short, the trajectory of Flashbacks has been from kind of the early beginnings of the anti-material movement, whatever I'm going to call it, I don't know what environmental movement, to now it's just this arc of watching. There's so many things along the way that were crazy that happened, but I'll stop there for a second.
So Tatum also described, from what you remembered, the earlier Clientele in the 90s as being...
80s.
80s?
It started in 86.
Yeah.
She wasn't born till 99,
I know.
so
she recalled from the 90s.
Right, of course.
As it being punks, hippies, and drag queens. Could you
Okay, here's where she got that one. All right. Mm-hmm. For a minute there, upstairs, the second location of Flashbacks, I was able to buy a building on University Avenue. Back in the day, they were giving them away. I still own it. Anybody interested in buying a building? No. But what happened is I had the upstairs shoe store. And back then, there weren't many places. There was no online shopping for shoes. You had to go to a physical shoe store. And I went around Gainesville. You want to buy Tom McCann shoes? You want to buy, basic dad shoes? You can get them everywhere. There weren't any. So I started what we called the upstairs shoe store. We got tons of drag queens. That's what she remembers. Not really from Flashbacks. That was the upstairs shoe store. But anyway, what was the rest of the question? Remember, I'm old now. I forget this stuff.
Could you expand on your early clientele? Because a lot of people
the early
like
clientele.
thrifting.
It was really, when I started it, one of the reasons we started it really was I was in a band. I was hanging out in the punk community. They were, at the time, they were punks and posers. And the whole idea, when I started, we in the early part was, and what happened was, I was a punk, I was young, I don't want to say, I'll use the word ignorant. Not ignorant, innocently ignorant. I was so angry at the world, and because of that, it felt like my little clique of people, we had a rack in the original Flashbacks called Rags to Riches, where everything on the rack was the most awesome stuff, but it was all 99 cents, because my friends knew that's where to get the awesome stuff. But at the time, I remember thinking, I'll make all mainstream America pay $5.99 for a shirt. Wow. But the point is early on, it was, what Tatum was saying, when she said hippies, it was really more of the alt, now it'd be called the alt crowd. It was like punks, the term at the time was posers. There were a few people, and the other part that you missed that was really, has come back. One of the closer parts of the store to my heart is there was a period of time in the 80s and 90s that certain brands, this was when, branding was always big, but this is when all of a sudden TV shows were branding and et cetera, et cetera. So I had, in the 90s, I probably had 10 different women, mothers, come to me and say, thank you for because my son would not go to school without a Tommy Hilfiger shirt. And I couldn't afford one, but you had them for $5.99. I could afford them. You really, and I was like, the most shocking part to me is the whole experience is people come up to me all the time when they found out I was retiring, thank you for what you've done for the community. And I'm like, I went to work, But it, in turn, that work has helped me grow, and hopefully, obviously, getting a lot of feedback, it's helped other people, which is awesome. So, but then what happened, the change, I'm gonna get to your next, I'll skip your next question. The change, what started happening is the first time our group consciousness really started saying, oh, look, we're producing way too much. I'll never forget was, first, actually, I'll say it this way. When I started hearing people talk about it back then, what had happened is magazines used to be relevant. Life magazine was really relevant. Mm-hmm. And April 20th, 1990, that was the date. I don't know if that was the exact date, but They had a magazine, the front cover said, recycle, reuse, refuse. And it had a picture of the earth. And I understand this. Until I think it was 69 or something like that, we never saw what the earth looked like. So 70 was still a newish concept of like, the world. And it was a really, not shocking, but I remember that started conversations. Oh no, recycle, reuse, repurpose. And I added refuse. But that is really when I started watching I don't want to say average, because there's no average. The crowd, my clientele started to change. I started getting people in there for the first time, and they weren't there shopping because they were looking for cheap clothes, or they were punks looking for ripped up t-shirts from, it's crazy because I think of it this way. I'm as fortuitous the timing starting, it almost seems impossible to me now to start a store like mine, because at the time I did it, nobody else, well, I shouldn't say nobody, very few people were doing it. Used clothing was still a quarter a dime, and fashion was so much slower. When I started this, for the first 10 years in that store, well, I don't know how long, but the first period of time, I remember people used to come in here and say, I was in New York, I can't wait for those fashions to hit Gainesville. It'll probably be here in a year or so. Think about that. Now fashion is up there, fashion's here. So the instantaneousness has changed. But what that did is the cycle started changing, and it's speeding up. So what happened back then, it took me 2 years it took us 2 years to collect the clothing. And right now, if you did that, 80% of that, you can't sell it because it's useless. And the other part of it is, how are you going to get it so fast, timely, and have a store full at my prices, which is the other thing. So accidentally, I've been really wise. But I'm not sure I'm going to keep coming back to the same question, because so go on to the next question, because that part was, there's so many little those stories of how it's changed and everything. I'm sure I'll have many old man stories, dad stories.
We can loop back around a little bit. How did you name Flashbacks? What's the story behind the name? Okay.
What happened is, I think it was, I want to say March of 1985. It was the NBA draft. Len Bias, the first round draft pick of the Boston Celtics, died of a cocaine overdose. Nancy Reagan, of the newly elected President Reagan, freaked out, and she went on and started the Just Say No campaign. So I remember back then, of course, in the 70s and 80s, drugs I never was around any of them. And I looked at a friend, and actually Bob, he was in the group, and we were talking, and I said, we need a drug reference to, this is also a funny aside, because this also shows you how much time has changed. So without missing a beat, he's like, Flashbacks. And I'll explain to you more about that in a second. And I looked at him and I said, it's worth the trip. And that's been our thing since. Now, the funny thing is, it hit me a couple years ago. Most people your age, when I say your age, you can't see her because she's over there. She's a college student. When I say, do you know what the term flashbacks mean? You're like, well, yeah, something coming back. Flashbacks, after the 1938 Reefer Madness government scare campaign. Have you ever seen that movie? If you haven't, by the way, if you haven't, it's quite entertaining, funny. It's like, I can't believe the government really thought we believed that, but the world's changed. But, so in the 60s, LSD became an issue. LSD is acid, and therefore the government threatened us with, if you do acid, you're gonna, okay, and just like this is your brain on drugs commercials, back then it was, you'll have flashbacks. And they had things like, I don't remember, but I kind of remember this one commercial where some businessman was having a meeting and all of a sudden he started eating, it was just stupid stuff. But my whole generation and the generations that follow knew what flashbacks was, a drug reference. Now it's just a mainstream reference to something that happened a long time ago. Mm-hmm. Well, so when we started, because the flashback was a drug reference, we were raided twice. We were protested by churches outside. The police chief at the time, Waylon Clifton, he thought he was Elvis. He was a nice guy. He came in the store one day, I was like 3 weeks in, and he said, "Can you just give me a copy of all of your permits? Because twice a week, 3 times a week, we're getting a group calling us because they're all convinced that you're doing something illegal." So I gave them all the permits, never had any problems, but it was awesome because we made front page news because of that, which was, I couldn't afford, I was paying, at the time, it was ramen noodles and $20 a week was all I had. I only wish I bought every t-shirt, every Goodwill and Salvation Army back then I could for a quarter or a dime. I have many Rolling Stone 66 concert t-shirts. I know, it's crazy, but anyway. Is that the end of the question, I think?
Okay. So also, when you first started the business with all these protests, do you think it was more college students that supported?
No, it was the churches. It was all organized by the churches.
Who supported on the other side of it? Who bought from the business?
Oh, who bought? Yeah. Our customers were I think I kind of went through this. It was basically, when I say the alternative crowd, Gainesville is, even still to this day, I see it. There's a group of young people who, they're intelligent, but they don't like the system. Back then they were punks, whatever. But we had a lot of people shop there. But like I said, it was not for the reasons people shop there now. They shop there for really cheap clothing, but it wasn't the fashion thing. Now it's like a hip thing, it's this, it's that. But then it was like cheap. It was, I'm a broke ass mofo. That's 99 cents, I'll take it. That was our world. And I'll never forget, this will also give you an example. I don't really even think about it, but when you stop and realize, I think back to the early days and how much even monetary dollars have gone up. I'll never forget. First year I was in business, guy came in, we had this, I was shocked thinking back, because I didn't realize we ever had anything, when I remembered back, for anything more than $20 back then. We had a jacket for $29.99. It was a nice leather coat. A guy comes up to the counter with it, says, "Can I get this for $20? I'm like, we just put it out. I remember I said, "No," and he takes out of his pocket a $20 bill and put it in front of my face. He said, "Catch money." Put it down on the counter. Stood there for a minute, like, that's a lot of money. And I look back, I'm like, I'd laugh at you if you did that to me now. Cash money. I'm like, yeah, come on. But the point is just that the store has changed, the society has changed. It is almost diametrically opposed to what it was. One funny thing is my first store, and this is what I was talking about, the protests and all. If Tatum sent you the picture, and it would be posted with this, is a picture. I think the picture that I'm referring to it was like when we were in business for 10 years, it was 1996, we were moving. Well, somebody took a picture of it from far off, and so you see like all the buildings down the street. To me, the funny thing is that if you just put your thumb over or something over the store, everything else looks like it's from the 50s. When you take it off, I went, oh, but at the time I didn't see that. But I see the same thing, I'm not gonna say compare anything to now, but there's a side of society who is afraid of change of any sort. And that freaked him out because looking, I'm like, wow, I look like 30 years in the future from what everything else looked. But that's usually what happens in life, that it starts out as, no, that's wrong. And then before you know it, you're the star of the show. But I don't mean that, I'm not the star of the show. Anyway.
Do you think you could describe the physical evolution of the business then with each location?
I can give you a quick synopsis. The first one, 107 North Main Street, which I drove by yesterday, and they're tearing it down. Really? The roof was off yesterday. I think that Scott and Hal, who own the top, bought that whole, or part of that block from the church, because when I moved out of there, the church bought it from Barton T. Douglas, who used to have a law office. He passed away in the 80s. But that was like it was 428 square feet of store. But it was the only way I could do it. It was $300 plus tax. It was $318 a month, which it's funny because now I hear people move into, it was like $318, okay, here's a check. Now it's like, let's fill out 14 forms, credit reports. It's crazy how it's changed. But so that was really the first location. That was the location that we were the total alternative. We were the punks and society, we were it seemed like we were anti-everything, but we weren't. I was pro-life, pro-love. pro joy, pro everything. So then the second, it enabled me to buy 211 West University Avenue, which I won't go into the dollars. What? You paid what for that? Yeah, they gave it away. And that was a 2-story location. That was the 90s. It was like 96 to 2006. It was some of the more fun times because it was changing. More and more people were coming in. It was less of a reactionary place and where it was like more fun at this point. Customers were getting a little bit more in the sense of regular. I mean, regular, and it was mainstream America was starting to show up. A funny thing, I just remember this. So one of the first months that I had the store, I had to go to town. I didn't have any employees back then. I mean, here, you want some Cheerios, that'll pay you, or ramen noodles. But so I had 2 friends, a couple, Vicky and Sam, watch the store for a weekend. And I'll never forget when we got home, they're like, oh my God, you have a gold mine. Saturday was $371 in sales. And I think about that now. 300 gold, what a different world we live in. But, okay, second store was where I had the upstairs too. So that had a lot of different things going on in the sense that that was the first place when I bought the building, there was a hair salon up there. It was called Imagine for Hair. It stayed there for a few years until they moved. Once they moved, I started the upstairs shoe store. And then when I found myself spending an hour and a half with each person, everybody buying nothing, saying, these are just too cool. You can't wear these anywhere in Gainesville. It was a different world. I'm like, I'm just sitting here. People are trying on shoes, having fun, and I'm paying for it. So I changed it to more of an antique-y, vintagey, kitschy kind of, thrift stuff upstairs. So it was Flashbacks, and the upstairs was called the Stuff Store, or the Stuff. And so it was Flashbacks and Stuff. And that lasted until, what happened was the city then put the parking garage, downtown parking garage. There used to be behind that block at 211, or the whole block of some 2nd Avenue, 3rd Avenue, Northwest on University Avenue, was a flat parking lot. I think there were 122 spaces. And it was a free parking lot. So all the city employees parked there. Well, when they built that parking garage, those 122 employees had to find parking. They took every bit of street parking that all my customers used to take. So my business went from the time I opened, my business was always going like that until then. Wink. So I had to move. I moved to, at the time, it was 2007, it was right before the Great Recession. Oh my God, every day people, oh look, my house went up $28,000 overnight. It was stupid times. Well, renting, give you an example. I ended up, next move I made, I moved to 509 Northwest 10th Avenue because I couldn't find any place I could afford. But the next place after, 818 West University Avenue that I rented, back then, when I was looking at it, I think they wanted, I want to say $7,000 or something for the front half of the plaza on the first floor. I ended up renting it in 2014, the whole downstairs for right under $5,000 a month. So, and that was actually, the building, although so many people liked it and everything, the building was horrible in the sense it was falling apart. There were smells in there, and the walls, we couldn't get out. Things, we got out of there as soon as the lease ended. ACs were breaking left, right. It was just not while it was closer to campus, I realized quickly 2 things about my business. One, that to purchase clothes cheaply, I shouldn't go too far into this, but there's so many things. I was always analyzing how I could, okay, this is my first off topic. I'm gonna make this one quick. What I realized early on is we live in a capitalistic society. And I have a business degree, and I remember reading all about capitalism, zero-sum theory, et cetera, et cetera. And I remember thinking back then, okay, if capitalism is working with a finite amount of goods and services, or monetary, to purchase goods and services, I said, I'm going to look at capitalism the opposite side. I'm going to look at capitalism I'm going to call you work on what I dubbed, I'm so intelligent, I kept names for things, the abundance theory. And from that point on, what I said is, I'm not going, I honestly didn't think the store was going to last 40 years. But I said, the abundance theory to me meant, I'm going to work hard. I'm not worried about the bottom line. What I'm going to do is, zero-sum theory doesn't sound, I don't want to take from my neighbor to feed my family. That doesn't feel right. So I said, I'm going to work harder and figure out how to source it cheaper. Now, early on, the sourcing was easy. You go I'll never forget, I went to a yard sale. A woman sold me 122 concert t-shirts. This is 1980, in the 80s, for 10 cents each. In 1987, 88, 89, whatever this was, I can only imagine what t-shirts I had in my hand. I sold them for $3, $4, $5.99 probably each. Anyway, so the idea of what I said is that instead of worrying about the bottom line, let me just focus on making the prices cheaper, and then work on the theory of volume. And here's where it all came from, really. I know I'm boring. She yawned. But anyway, I had Dr. David Denslow. He was an economics professor here. I think he went on to become an economics advisor for some president. He went pretty high up. I forget where he went. Maybe not the president, but you can check it later. But I loved him. He always looked at economics, not the same way I did, but he never had, it seemed to me it was like, he would always play with his students in the sense that he would give you what would seem like the obvious answer, and then so one day, this is what Flashbacks, the idea of my abundance theory started. He said, I can buy a can of beans for 1 penny. Store on this corner sells them for a can of beans for 5 cents. Store on this corner sells them for 50 cents. What store do you want to own? Who wants to own the 5-cent store? No hand went up. Who wants to own the 50-cent can store? Every hand up went, but me. He's like, did anybody not put their hand up? I put my hand up. He said, why did you not put your hand up? I said, because I don't think you gave us enough information. I said, exactly. He said, I don't care what you sell it for, but really determines how many you sell. This guy over here sold 500 cans. This guy sold 20 cans. Well, he's making 49 cents a can. He's making 4 cents a can. Who made more money? Who has happier customers? Once the word happy came in, when he used that, I remember thinking at the time, I was never thinking I was going to start a store or anything, but fast forward, when I started thinking about it, it was like, I think what I'm going to do is, I want happy customers. My goal is not to make somebody walk out of my store and go, that hurt. And I think I've done it. And that is, the funny thing is, I'm convinced, other than my ability to talk my ear off, your ear off, and mine too. We made it through the first quite a few years, being that people were, it'd come in. I'll never forget it. One of my favorite moments in the store, a woman came in. I was much younger, she was younger, and she was like, back then it was slower. I had time to really engage with people. And I felt this sense of not happy. And she came close and I said, hey, how are you doing? She said, I'm okay. I said, that didn't sound very, everything, because back then, like I said, I think she was the only customer. So she said, well, actually, I'm kind of broke, but every time I come into your store, I walk out so much happier. So do you mind? I don't have any money. I'm like, are you kidding me? I looked at her, I said, I don't have any money either, but go find $20 worth of clothes. I want us both to be happy. And she did. And it was funny, for the next 5 years, once every 3 months, 6 months, she'd come in, bottle of wine. That was a really rough time, and that helped me through. And I just wanted to say thank you. Little things like that. And I gotta admit, I never did them. I wish I'd thought them through. I wish I had. I never did them for that. But afterwards, I'm always like, wow. I always look at them and go, God, you're so nice. I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, maybe. Oh, wait. Not saying but what it was is I really care. I want to know about people. It wasn't like that. I feel like so many times you go into Walmart and it's like, even though there's a human behind they're not a human to you. They're a cashier-tron going, here are prices. And so that's what made us different. And through the years, I had a lot of people come in there go, I love coming in here because, there are real people in here. And that to me, when I started hearing that, I felt I was a success. Oh yeah, money, I didn't have any then, but success is measured in the US by longevity and zeros. To me, I felt like I had found something. And I'm going to give you my second aside. And that is the best moment of my store. 100% hands down, and I'll probably come to tears telling you about it, but no. So when my father was in 84, which would be 2004, he passed away in 2009, he would come up here. My mom passed away when I was really young, but he'd remarried, but my stepmom at the time was getting pretty frail and fragile. She didn't travel, so he would take the train up here. So one time he came up here, and he spent 7 days with me. And what happened, he came to the store every day with me. And what he said when he was leaving, he looked at me with tears in his eyes, and he said, Steve, I'm sorry. I said, what are you sorry for? I had a great time. He goes, no, that's not what I'm talking about. I said, what are you talking about? He said, your whole life I've told you you need to be like your brother. And I told you prior to this, my brother was very successful. He sold his business to a Fortune 500 company. He was extremely type A. He didn't stop. His first computer, I'll never forget. I was a computer nerd. I looked at it, I was like, where are the games? He's like, that's the first thing I take off. Why do you have a computer? But he said to me, he looked at me with tears in his eyes, and he goes, I've been telling you your whole life you need to be like your brother. He said, after spending a week with you, your brother needs to be more like you. He said, for 84 years, I guess I thought the money was the most important part. You have to succeed. It hurts sometimes. And he said, but I saw you were able to have a business with joy. He said, I didn't know that was possible. He hugged me, he left. And I broke down because I was 44. I'm thinking, I don't need my father's approval, whatever. But what had hit me is he actually saw it. And that made me it wasn't that made me happy, it made me feel like, okay, if my dad can finally, he was a loving father, but my mom died, so he had a really hard time. He had 3 kids he had to raise with blah, blah, blah before he got remarried, young kids. So he worked his butt off, and he didn't have time to be, especially earlier in life, to be doting and all that, but he was a great father, but the fact that he came around and saw that filled my heart with joy, because I was like, okay. It was almost embarrassing for the first 20 years. What do you do for a living? I sell used clothes. Here I have a computer science degree, math, blah, blah, blah. But that was when I still cared about my ego. I mean, obviously we care some, but the thing is as we go on. Anyway, that was the end of that story, because I don't, we can be here all day and night. Go ahead.
Okay, so on a pretty similar topic, could you describe / kind of elaborate on spirituality within businesses as well?
Well, how long do you have? I'm gonna make it as short as I can, but it goes like this. When you say what is spirituality about the business, everything in that store and everybody who I hire and everything I do is done with the intention of either loving or forgiveness. Because I've done all the others, and I learned, I'd say a long time ago, 20 years ago, that so many of those things are choices, and I know they don't feel like it, blah, 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 and I hear them, all the lectures and everything. But I started telling myself, and so anyway, fast forward, the spirituality in Flashbacks is, well, for me, what it was this. Because it started out so slow, I say slow, it was like not the busiest business in the first 5-10 years. I talked to a lot of people, and inevitably the conversations would come back away from mainstream America. How much money do you make? How's the weather? And it went to deeper conversations, and what it started me doing back then is we all hurt when we're young. It's something causes us pain. Even if we have a perfect life, we find, because, it is, for me, what it was a signal that I needed to heal and learn, but I didn't know how to heal. And so what all these conversations started doing was, something inside of me started flickering, going, it feels like there's something in there. And so I started talking, reading, looking, doing whatever I could. There wasn't an internet. I couldn't pick up my iPad. I can't use my phone anymore, my eyes. My iPad. And, you can go. But at the time, it was more of a concerted effort of, I feel like the customers I had, I was so blessed with so many awesome people through the years. And I learned, I taught, I learned. It was just, it felt like almost the first 20 years, almost felt like it was my temple, my church, because what I was doing there was learning not necessarily how to make money, but how to make me a better person, which it wasn't. The funny thing is, none of this was intended. It was caused by pain. And when I say intended, I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to heal and be a better person. It was, I hurt my back when I was young. I was told that by the it was Shands, the guy is like, I was told this guy was the best back doctor in the southeastern United States. He said, good news and bad news. Good news, you can still go to parties. Bad news, you can't walk. You'll have to go in a wheelchair. I was told I'd never walk again. But it was, anyway, so 10 years of pain really caused, when it first happened, there was a moment where I was unable to get out of bed for 9 months. I mean, I got out of bed to crawl to the bathroom and things, but it was pain. Walking was excruciating. So that pain is I think, I'm convinced, pain is the main force behind teaching us anything. Mm-hmm. And so all I know is I chose at that moment in life, I'm going to do whatever I can to heal. And if I heal, we won't go into God, defining God and all that, but in the energy of the universe, I'll say, if and when I heal, I will do whatever I can to help others. And it was a lot of work. I mean, this, as silly as it sounds, it took me a year to be able to stand up for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes and walk, because it hurt so bad. What I would do is I added 5 seconds a day. The first day I'd stand up for 5 seconds. Next day I'd stand up for 10. Next day I'd stand up for 15. 3 minutes in, I mean, it sounds so silly now. I was 23 or 24. And I was so proud I could stand up for 3 minutes. Fast forward 10 years, I was finally back. And the spirituality was, why do I hurt? And I learned so much about why I hurt, and it wasn't my back. I mean, when I say it wasn't my back, yeah, there was some physical pain there. But JFC, I was just like, oh my, when I starting to learn, flashbacks gave me the ability to seek healing, spirituality, while I was still working, because it wasn't crazy busy. I was putting in 30 hours a week, if that, some weeks. I mean, I had time. I didn't have a whole lot of money, so spirituality was free. Anyway, I could go on and on, because there's so much to me. I mean, that is the only question when you ask. To me, right now, where I'm at, flashbacks was a spiritual experience for me. It was a monetary experience also. But what I look at for years, this is long before flashbacks became like, wow. I remember some people would say to me, so what do you do? Or, oh, God, I'm so well. Oh, money. Okay, now I'm broke as shit, but I am so, you wouldn't believe how many awesome people I met. It brought me famous people, because when Flashbacks was at 211, the Great Southern Music Hall was 2 stores down. Bands played there. Well, I mean, I'll never forget it. I won't embarrass Tatum with this Blink 182 story. But,
now you need to tell it.
No, not on camera. But there were, many people who played, and they'd come over, they're like, hey, I'm in my bus and back there, we're just looking for something to do. And I'd talk to people. Half of them I didn't know. And later on, I'd meet somebody young, like, oh, that was who? I'm like, I couldn't even say the name because I didn't know the band at the time. I'm like, they're like, they were here. I was like, oh my God. So it was, I mean, the early, not to throw names, but some of the famous Gainesville or around here, the Phoenix family used to come in early on when River was still alive. I think he'd passed away, he was OD'd 92 or 93. He'd come in, he was dating Martha Plimpton. his mom, Arlene, the whole family would come in. It was so, one of my favorite early memories was Liberty came out of the back room with a pair of Liberty overalls. It was the first time I ever met the family. And she's like, look, Mom, these are from me. It has my name. Liberty was a brand of overalls. It was just the look on her face. I remember going, oh my God, I love this. So just so many little things. There's so many stories. But like I said, I think anything you do for a lifetime, it's going to have a lot of stories. But for me, what I always found was, hey, you can go make a lot of money. Or, hey, you can meet some really awesome people and learn a whole lot. And I always seemed, until the last few years, I always chose the latter. And when you say the money, you got to say it this way. I didn't choose the money. I remember my wise old father used to say, because he was a Depression baby. He was born in 1920. He was the man of the house in 1927, 1928, 1929, the crash. And he told me stories, and he don't throw away, he wouldn't throw away anything. At the beginning of the pandemic, I was like, oh shit, this is exactly what he's, but anyway, it's just, I forgot where I was going with this, but I forgot where I was going. I am 66. I'm hitting that point where the brain shuts down once in a while. What was the question again?
We were talking about spirituality within businesses.
Oh no, that was two questions. But anyway, I was talking about my dad and all that stuff. Okay, so really, there's so much to the spirituality. And when I said looking back, it really is spiritual business, because what I mean by that is, when I look back, I don't think about success. I don't think about that. I just think about all the people, all the interactions, all the joy, all the fun, all the employees, friends, acquaintances. It's like retiring is really sad. It was melancholy, not because I'm afraid of, I'm ready to go out to pasture, it's fine. But the part of it is so many people I saw regularly, but they were acquaintances because I only knew them from the store. And I started thinking of the list of the people I'll probably never see again that I love and like and care about. I'm like, so I think of the last couple of weeks of the store, hey, let me get your phone number. I was like, I remember I must have said 100 times in the last month I was there, I'm falling in love 100 times a day. This is really sad. Not sad, it's happy, but sad. Not as in a sad, depressing, but like, as in, anyway, okay. But like I said, I could go on and on about spirituality, because to me, it comes down to bottom line, that place, I'm convinced it's here now, not because of I'm brilliant or anything, but because I have love in my heart. And I think that love, I know, because I go in a lot of stores. Very few places. I know what Flashbacks is, because I've been in a few stores where you go in and that you're met with openness, with something different than you're not, like, the cashier who's like, thank you for your money, have a nice day. And that is where, I don't think, yes, it's turning. Let me give Tatum her props. She was born in this business, because she was -4 or 5 when I started it. So she has been fashion since she was born. When I moved out one of the stores, behind all the racks, underneath the racks, because there were wall racks, Tatum was here, age 3, age 4, whatever, early. Well, maybe she wasn't writing then, so it was pretty early, but just really cute stuff like that. But she really learned. When I say fashion today is so different than what it was in the day. And all I mean by that is because of the endless number of influencers, bloggers, whatever, you go at sites. If you don't have a unique opinion, why do you exist? So therefore, everything to somebody is in style. And the speed of style goes so much faster. But she has been curating that place for the last 5 years. I put her in charge. I kind of, not put her in charge, she kind of took over, but it was just natural, where it went from, Dad, should I buy this, to Tatum, should I buy this? And she really brought it up another notch, in the sense that, I know fashion in the sense that I can tell you tags, I can look at a piece 1938 to 19, whatever, that style. But designers I've never heard of, she's like, oh yeah, they're blah, blah, blah. how do you know all this? This is all I've done my whole life. I'm like, I get it, because I didn't do it my whole life. I didn't start really until my 20s. So she's really good at it. And I got to add this too. I can't tell you how many people have asked me. I mean, I want to say 20 people probably have said, you really think she can do it? Or something along those lines. In a sense of, and I look at them and say, listen, I might downplay my part in the success of Flashbacks. I might accept my ability to keep people there by talking. But I think that the whole journey, she is. I'm not stupid, and if I didn't think she could do it better than I ever could, I would have sold the place. But I never would have sold the place, because I know if I sold it, I'd have to find that right person, because I've talked to a few people. I never planned on selling it or talked about it, but the few people I talked to about it, not formally or anything, they're like, oh wow, God, I remember one person said, God, there's so much room to make more money here. I know exactly what that meant, and I'm like, so you want to kill Flashbacks, okay? Yeah. And so I just said at that point, I was like, nope. And so it's going to carry on in the same light. And I got to say, what? Now I know it's going to be a success, because it's been all of 9-10 days that I've been retired. And the other day she texted me. She's like, oh my God. And I saw her grow up in this text, so I'm going to say it that way. She's like, oh my God, because I never was here, I never got it. So just simply today, the amount of people that I had to deal with that I've never had to deal with before, she's like, oh my God, went through it. I was like, oh, okay, she gets it, and she's understanding it, she's putting it, she understands. And I'm so thrilled to be able to give my daughter, hopefully, a business that will take her through her retiring, and she'll be making a hell of a lot more money than I did at her age. That's for sure. Because I look back at my IRS form, like, what? How did I live? But.
So speaking of people, do you think you could describe your company's workplace culture and your employees? Because I know in the beginning you didn't have any.
Well, yeah. Okay. The culture. Okay. When you say culture, one of the reasons why I recently retired is only because when I start feeling anything but positive, and I'm not playing hokey spiritual, but what I mean is this. In life, I realized, because I hurt so bad earlier on, when I feel pain in any way, when I say pain, it doesn't have to be hurt, discomfort, in emotion or whatever, I'd stop and I listen. And what I've started noticing is, because I've done it for so long, and we're such a bigger company now, we're hiring a lot more people, there's a lot more training. So what's going on is this. I've been training for 35 years, 36 years. They've all had no training. I've watched the same mistake over and over. And look, I've told you this 1,000 times. No, I haven't told you 1,000 times. I've said this 1,000 times. And I started realizing, oh, the universe, yes, I do say things like this. The universe was screaming at me, Steve, you're getting frustrated because you've done this long enough that now you didn't ever get frustrated from this. But this frustration is telling me that there's something else that, as my dear sweet wife said, Liz, she told me, she was encouraging retirement, and she said, there's so many other things you can fall in love with in life. And I was like, you're right. And my frustration there, I was like, I never got frustrated at the store. I found myself little bits, not getting angry, workplace culture, and this is what I'm going to describing culture. Up to that point, and I never really, I always step back whenever I felt myself get a little frustrated. But what would happen is I would always just step back, but I found it happening. Not that the employees were any worse. It was just more of them, and I'm on and on. So I was like, okay, it's time for the next generation to take over. So it was kind of perfect. But the question you asked was, which one was it you were saying?
Workplace culture.
Oh, the work. Okay. Yes. So really, for the first 5 years, there wasn't much of a workplace culture, and there were one or two of us there. But it was like, at the time, it was like we started it together, and then, like we were friends, and so it wasn't really a culture. It was like we were hanging out. Then once I took over, what started happening was, I was still young, I got divorced, and my employees became, through the 90s, I want to say, my employees became my friends. I remember when the top opened, we'd go over to the top every night and we'd get a drink. It was crazy. It was so much fun. And I look back, I could list the people, and there's just so many wonderful, amazing people who work for me. And sometimes I felt like I worked for them. But the culture was really, there were no rules in the sense that I hired people who I sensed had an awareness of self. And I've seen this recently, the last few years. Management culture, things like, not management, the interview techniques, like, can I get you something to drink? Oh, is the cup of coffee still there when they get up? They're not self-aware. I didn't use that, but there's certain things when you talk to somebody, Now everybody lied to me when I stopped taking resumes 20 years ago, because I'm like, I don't want your lies. Seriously, this is not rocket science. These are used clothes. So what I always went for were people who could manage themselves. And so when I started feeling me changing, not them, time for me to go. So, and it was really nice because I got 5 years of that place turning into, the best way I can describe it, about a month ago, a woman came in, and I overheard her talking to her friend saying, the first time in here on last Saturday. I heard that. I happened to be walking the other way. So I said, oh, well, I'm so glad you came back. She looks at me I'm like, what did I say wrong? She's like, oh no, I'm a member of the cult of Flashbacks. I was talking about my parents. They came to town. I brought them in here. That just, I grabbed my heart, because that spoke volumes to me. And what it is this. There are so many people through that store through the last few years. Oh, I had one person, the last day I worked, she came in, she's like, I could tell she was frustrated, because with her friend, she's like, all right, I did it. When they walked in, and I was like, hey, welcome to, and she looked at me and she's like, welcome. And she's like, and her friend looked at me, she's like, it's her first time here. I was like, so I started just making it. She's like, yeah, all my friends, you got to go to Flashbacks. She's like, I'm here so I can say I was there. 45 minutes later, she came up with a pile of clothes. So it's really, I don't want to say it makes me feel good, pride, any of that BS. What it is I created what I love. And I'm finding other people love it too. And that's how I'll say it. Beyond that, the culture of this store really is, look, if you have to ask me over and over and over again what to do, really, you're not in the right place. But what I used to say to people when I'm hiring them is literally, after I hired them, if you don't have a smile for 40% of this interview, you're telling me your personality, you're not, I want somebody who's upbeat. And yeah, I get you're nervous. I get, I was there. I wouldn't have done, you're more ballsy than I was. Or maybe it's the wrong word, but it's 2025. So anyway, the idea of the whole, okay, I once again, I continuously throw myself off. It's been really bad. In 3 years, I'm going to meet new people every day, but that'll be good too. So repeat the question. So you have to repeat, look at it too.
I was like, what are we on?
What line are we
on? Workplace culture.
Yeah, we were past that, I thought, but okay.
We kind of been skipping questions.
Okay,
but
let's
it's
skip.
also fine.
Let's skip. Let's finish that one.
Yeah, and then kind of, I think you did answer it.
Okay.
That was it. So moving kind of more into like operations sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Do you think you could talk about, if you remember, the first major tech change that you incorporated into the business, whether that be
1993, 92, I computerized. And I'll never forget this. This is funny. This is how I bought 211 West University Avenue. So I put a computer in, and back then there were very few programs but there was a little DOS-based program called Consignment Boutique. I could have written the software, but the thing was, it would have taken me, it was like one of those things. So it was crappy software, but it was software. Oh my God, it's a computer. And so I'll never forget what happened is, like 6 months later, Sandy from Sandy's came in. I became friends with her. Sandy came in and she's like, "You're computerized. My customers are telling me you guys got a computer here. Are you willing to tell me? Wait." And I looked at her, I was like, "Sandy, I'm not in competition." I said, "This type of business," I said, "listen, that dress, that shirt, but you don't have any of these things. In that side, you're not competition. You're just another store offering the same thing. And I want to encourage people to go there and here to find what they want." So it's like, "Oh, okay." So she literally said, "Can I hire you to computerize me?" I'm like, "Sure." So I trained her staff and I computerized her. And the last words I said to her as I was walking out was, "Hey, if you ever want to sell this building, 211 West University Avenue." She's like, "I'm never going to sell it." 2 years later, my phone rang. Anyway, so that was the first major change. Now we're going through with Tatum coming in, I'm not forcing her, I'm challenging her to find uses of AI, to find uses of different ways. I'm saying, look at everything we do and what takes us the most time. Where are we wasting time? And so we're probably going to go through another now, because what I was saying to her is, look, I've watched it through the years, so many people. As a parent they're passing on a business to their children, it happens many ways, but one of two ways. You're wrong, or, that I will show you how to do it because my way is the only right way, or looking and understanding and knowing that they're your offspring. They're just as smart as you, if not smarter, because especially with technology and all the access to information, she's gonna do better than I ever could, because first of all, she's taking over a place that I ended with it. So it's not that it can only go up, but she's gonna make changes that, and the other beauty of it is I love the fact that it's now a woman-owned business, because this is totally off topic, but I think we need a lot more femininity in our culture, because a quick story goes, last election I had a gentleman knock on my door. I answered the door. He's like, "Hey, I'm running for blah, blah, blah. This is primaries." I said, "Are there any women running in your primary against you on your progressive side?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Well, then you will not get my vote." He said, "Why?" I said, "You have a penis." He said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "The definition of insanity is keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results." I said, "I have testosterone in me too. I probably used a lot less exterior than most guys, straight men. But at the same time, I feel it. I sense the anger." And I said, "Listen, I guarantee you, if there was the president of the United States with a woman and the country who we're pissed at, they're going to get together. They're not going to say, 'Hey, let's put our sons and daughters and shoot bullets at each other.' There are going to be women who have more male than me, much more than me, but they're, on a whole, femininity suggests a gentler solution to it than, and I don't mean male, female, I mean the feminine, the things we identify as feminine are much more going to bring us farther, because we failed. We had men ruling for years, and look where we're at. So that's where I'm thrilled we have a women-owned business, because I feel like it also will help the business, because people want to support, the underdog. And it's sad to say that women, blacks, anybody who's not straight, white, and old male, they're at a disadvantage in our culture. So anyway, next question.
So kind of going off of what you just said, this is on the list.
Oh, I just doodle on the list now.
Okay, perfect. Within the thrift community, of the smaller thrift stores that you know, is it typically like straight cis males, or
No.
than dogs.
No. As a matter of fact, I think more women, because if you look at names of thrift stores around the country, Sandy's, et cetera. The one thing I've learned, and depending on what your fashion taste is, I don't ever go in a thrift/consignment store where the owner's name is in the title. I've done this for 40 years, and let me change the word never. It's percentage-wise, I'm gonna have a heck of a lot less chance of finding what I'm looking for. I've learned this. I don't know I know what it is, but I won't go deep into that part. But there's that.
Right. Also, pretty similar to tech changes, can you talk about how the evolution of social media influenced your business?
Well, it's okay. Has it influenced? When you say influence my business has used social media to influence the public to come back to what it is it's free, so sort of. I mean, mostly. We do pay. We have a pop-up. We put $50-$100 towards ads for that, things like that. But generally, social media is mostly free. And so what we try to do is, it's funny, one of the questions you had asked me and I responded to you about branding. My first social media manager, Lana, she was a UF grad, and all she wanted to do was brand us. And I was spending a lot of money on her, and all I can tell you is I wasted a lot of money. I'll tell you why. Because, like I was trying to explain to you and it's challenging to express a valid, long thought in text. But it goes like this, my company is not creating anything. We're not just, selling anything we created. We're just middleman. We're not the brand. Yes, of course, obviously Flashbacks. But what I do is I'm not trying to brand. I am choosing to make the store less, and you're not coming to, okay, so it is branding. But the idea is, our whole thing, like for instance, I've always taken it lightly in the sense that all of my ads I've ever had, I could list them in 1 minute. They go like this: Flashbacks, home of the hip crowd, hipsters, hippies, hip replacements. Then when Plato's came to town, it was 20 years after we'd opened. And they were on the radio, the TV, everywhere. It was like, and again, this was before social media, the question, or the beginnings so it wasn't. So you turn the radio in the car, like, fuck, I'm hearing them again, and they're name brands, small brands. So I went and recorded a commercial with my guitar. I picked up my guitar and I was like, hey, I'm Steve from Flashbacks. I've been in town for 20 years now. We also sell name brands, small brands. So when you're looking for name brands, small brands, only, yeah, you hear it. But when you're looking for, pick up my guitar, name brands, small brands, indie, punk, goth, urban, prep, modern, hippie, retro, sexy, shopping parties, a whole lot more, come to Flashbacks. You're ready to come out of the closet. So, I've always approached it as a joke, and it kind of, the other ones, like through the years, one of the things that always stuck with me, there was a place in town for many, many years called Skeeter's, probably long gone before you were here. Well, Skeeter's was a breakfast place for like 30 years until it turned into, what is the I've never been to I can't, this is as bad my brain is. What is the what is the name of the place? It's the top list, what is they called? The strip joint on right off of I-75 and in like Ocala, not Ocala. Oh
gosh, I know what
you're
talking about.
Those are the kids of Skeeter's. They they sold Skeeter's. They took his dad's money and they opened that. Cafe Risque.
Yes.
Anyway, what happened to that place is, the first month or two, I remember this story from him, and he said the first month or two, he was, the baker didn't show up one morning, and said to, oh my God, anybody here bake? And one of the dishwashers said, I can bake, so they make biscuits. She made huge biscuits. Well, he said at the end of the day, everybody who's coming up to the counter was like, oh my God, those biscuits were awesome. So he's like, I kept the biscuits. And what he did is, he changed, and Skeeter's became Skeeter's, home with a big biscuit. But then the next thing he said, can you say, ad was something like, Skeeter's, home with a biscuit. Y'all, come on down to Skeeter's. Frankly, we need the money. And I loved that because it was like honest, but funny, and I was like, and so I don't ever purposely, whenever I think of any of these ads or anything, I'm never like trying to be funny. But what it is, I try to be light. I try to make it so that when you take it, you're not like, oh, these people are fucking with me. They're bullshit. It's like in Verizon, excuse me, don't sue me for Verizon. I can't tell you how many times I click, get a free phone. Click, oh yeah. You also need XYZ. It's not free. If it's for all this amount for every month, that portion of that phone. But so anyway, I never liked that form of advertising. The sneaky, I always like in your face, may either make you laugh. And so overall, I feel like how I've presented the place is one way, but all right. So the question was
social media.
The social media. So the social media goes, she was trying to brand it. When I say the first social media owner, she was always branding. It was like Flashbacks was the theme. And I was like, look, to me, what I don't want people, I want urgency. And what I mean by that is, it's like, again, I'll never forget this in one of my advertising classes way back in the day, back when Stone Tablets. There was something where one subject was TOMA. Have you ever heard of that? Mm-hmm. Top of mind awareness. So the idea of top of mind awareness is there's certain things you sell. How often do you buy a car? How often do you buy a mattress? Those kind of things. The idea is you're not creating urgency. You're creating top of mind awareness. So when you think, I need a mattress, interestingly, that's what you think of. That's sort of the way I've approached it, not as like urgency, you have to come in now. So what I do is, the idea is, I wanted to create urgency I said to her, look, all I want you to do is post the awesome shit that came in today. Can I say shit? Yeah, I can't say anything.
We won't.
I know, I'm kidding. So, so it just, I'll leave it at that. There's so many ways, I can keep going about everything.
So you mentioned.
Oh, so let me finish.
Oh, yeah.
That was that first thing. So what's happened is, to finish the social media, what's happened, the first woman, so I went to the fourth one I got, finally, the very thing I was asking for, he did, and he did it exactly like I thought. And what did it do? It created, what it was this. I said, look, all I want you to do is pick every day you work 4 or 5 days a week, every day you work, you'll pick 5 items, 10 items, I don't care. All I want you to do is put them in a pile, video it, in today, that's it. With no holds over the phone, you have to come down here. You see something you want, oh, it's sold. Okay, but you're still buying $30 worth of stuff. It wasn't, and again, I will tell you I will say it this way. Don't do that because I'm trying to screw you out of your money. The point is there's certain things that I'm like, this stuff's awesome. And I want my followers, the people who have liked me, have followed me, I want them to get it. I don't want some rando who's been there the first time. It's awesome when they find cool shit too. But I want the people who've been looking for it for a year to be able to find it, not just have So if I post it, they come running in. But I started realizing, oh, look, there's something else that I'm getting from that too. Those kind of things. So that's where my social media went. We're now, like I was saying, AI is kind of it. Now there's actually, we're fashion-based, which is totally different than antique in the sense of, there's age, there's different eras, but the idea is, on my phone, I have 2 different apps that I pay for the antique side, which we really don't do at the store anymore, but I personally, that's a whole different thing. But, it's AI-based, where one's AI-based, where it'll come back, you take a picture, it'll tell you that's a Victorian blah, 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 blah. It'll give you a scale of 1 to 10 of investment. It'll give you quality. It'll give you, it goes out and it takes every existence that it finds online, and you have a page you can go through, so you can click every, et cetera, et cetera. It'll tell you what the average price is, the lowest price sold, the highest price. It's AI driven. It's great. But clothes don't have that per se yet. But they are using AI to do. I guess it's kind of the same, where it'll give you. You can take a picture of a shirt, and it'll say obviously you could put in, this was sold by, whatever, Urban Outfitters, whatever. And it'll say online, this is the average price, this is this. As a store, this is what our suggested resale price for this is. So I told Tatum, we should never use their suggested retail price because it's retail. And that's not how I've ever done it. But I said, so what you can do is start checking yourself, because what you can do is we can just say 0.5 times that suggested, or 0.6. We'll figure out what our pricing is and start using that, but instead of using their number, multiply it by our number and come up with it. That way you can see things you're not, because there are things that come in, whether it's Victorian. I mean, I'm shocked whenever something comes in and she doesn't know. Because that's what I'm saying. I'm really impressed by cross knowledge. But anyway, she just, social media has helped in that way. And I did notice, here's the one thing. Part of me was always like, yeah, no, it doesn't help that much. But when he left and I got my next social media manager and she wasn't that good, I did see a little drop in sales. It's the first time I'd seen a drop. And so I'm like, I'll bet you he bumped it up because he was showing. Basically, the thing is this. Here's what I mean about not branding. So if you go to a store, let's say you go to whatever, in your head what's at Kangaroo, what's at whatever, wherever you go. But at Flashbacks, you we're closed, but you never know what's there. So that was what I want to do is say, hey, check back, if you want to see what's coming in every day, here's 10, 15 cool, awesome things that we think, but it doesn't mean that you think, but hey, some of them you might find to be awesome. It's amazing the feedback we get online though. It's that part of it shocks me in that, okay, when Tatum posted, I'm retiring, I didn't know she was doing that. Like, I looked the next day, it was like 1,000 likes. I'm like, what the hell? Where the hell did this? I went from this like nothing, and in one night, I thought, like, wow, okay, I mean, that's nothing in the world of influencers and all, but for me, I was like, damn, that's crazy. So yeah, social media has that, but I won't say it's a large part. Next.
Okay. So you mentioned Plato's Closets a little bit before. Why do you think people choose Flashbacks so often over these big box stores?
I'll say it this way. I don't think that how you said it is right. I think that every person has a style, and they identify their style to where they find the most stuff. Mm-hmm. Now, I'll tell you something about fashion choices and what we put out there. I don't want, listen, I choose for every human to succeed and to the most they can, so I don't want to talk shit about Plato's at all, but I don't understand their business model. I don't understand. Fast fashion hurts my soul. And it's, when I go in there, I haven't been in there in a few years, it's a lot of fast fashion. It's a lot. And it seems like, but hey, if it's working for them, it's a franchise. Who am I to say, hey, they're successful? So my point is, I don't understand, but obviously enough people out there do. So I can't say people choose us over. I mean, there are some people who do, but the reason why I think is this. Most small towns are conservative. Most university towns are progressive. But the difference is they're still small. And usually the businesses, while a lot of businesses will focus on the students, it seems like most fashion is based on the town. And so I won't name all the other stores, but if you look at the fashion, it's not what an average college kid is wearing. I mean, I don't mean college kid. I mean someone young, someone of the age in their 20s. And the reason, here's the bottom line to my whole thing is I chose to start a store that I didn't have to create goods. I could resell them, but I felt like, here's how I thought of it, and it's evolved through the years, so I'm telling you my 40-year version, but this is how it started, and then not how it started, this is where it ended up. I look at, there's different types of people who shop in my store, the fashionistas, those are the ones who, fuck fashion, I'm wearing this because it looks good on me, and you know it too. But the thing about them is, the difference is so many people it's like their idea of fashion is they see a fashion magazine, they see something else, and they say, I like that shirt, that looks really good. They don't ever think, how will it look on me? They don't think, how do I style the whole outfit to bring what I see in this shirt to you? They just put on that shirt and think I'm in fashion. Those are 75% of the world probably. Because it's just everything. It's like, I do so much jewelry, and 99% of people I talk to are like, how do you know so much about jewelry? I mean, I'm living doing jewelry. But there's no reason you need to know about it. So I have a lot of advantages when it comes to buying and selling jewelry, because I can tell you way too much. But at the same time, okay, I'm going to stop my rambling about these things. Next question.
So Tatum kind of touched on this a little bit. Could you describe how COVID impacts your business?
Well, it's interesting. COVID impacted me more than the business, in the sense that, what I mean is this. So when COVID hit and we shut down, and it was a month and a half, 2 months, I was spending a lot of money to keep the store. I mean, because it's not like the phone company said, okay, your phone's free. The insurance company said your insurance is free. The landlord said your rent is free. Your internet was free. Your lights were free. I could go on and on. And I was spending thousands of dollars a month. So month and a half, almost going in 2 months, I was like, you know what? The universe is just telling me it's time to do something different. I'm going to shut it. And so I just kept saying, you know what? And then what happened was we reopened. The funny thing, the biggest change to me was this. Prior to COVID, we were open Thursday, Friday, Saturday from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. Sunday, noon to 7. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 10 to 7. So when we reopened, nobody wanted to work. Everybody was afraid. I mean, I get it. Everybody's afraid. So I'm like, okay, it was me. I'm like, I can't work 7 days a week. So I said, we'll open 12 to 6. And it hit me once we were open for a couple months. I'm not Walmart. People don't need 3 a.m. to come shop at Flashbacks. If I'm open 7 days a week for 6 hours, they'll find a day. Oh my God. That was brilliant. Accidental. I have accidental brilliance sometimes. But what happened was, so it cut down my payroll. Hence, I could pay my employees more. I could make, and then also what started happening is the shutdown it wasn't the store that changed, it was society that changed. And because everyone was broke on the other side of COVID, so many people who never ever had to shop used, shopped used. And I remember back then going, so many people were coming in there going, I didn't expect to find this kind, I expected to be digging through trash, basically. That's what they always said. That was my image of thrift shopping. That's why I never did it. Like, oh my God. So, and I think that was not only us, that was across, the globe. And so what it did is that time, I feel like there was when I say generational shift, the generational shift of awareness, societal awareness came, it was sort of like, that was to me the tipping point when I saw what I did was now mainstream. I went from people laughed at me. They laughed at me. I laughed at myself. I was like, what the hell am I doing? But that was really, when we reopened after COVID, there was a month, I'm like, shit, I'm gonna have to close, this sucks. Then it was like someone opened a faucet. And all of a sudden, it was like, okay, this is cool. Okay. Then it got to the point that numbers were going. I'm like, I did my taxes the first year after 2 years, the second year after COVID, I was like, oh my God, wait a minute, that's me? It was like, it's gotten a lot, when I say better, lower, since, because everybody makes more. I haven't raised my prices. The best part about my store is this. I don't have to follow the economic times outside of Flashbacks for 2 reasons. One, we set our own prices, and 99% of the time what happens, because I tell my employees, and I do this myself, I said, listen, one thing I learned in business, if you're honest, it might hurt short term, but in the long run, you're gonna have a lot more friends, a lot more customers. So pay people for what you're buying. And so what's happened through the years is that kind of people come in there and we are able to set our prices, but because, I'll say it this way, and I'm not going to mention names. If you check my reviews, you will find one review in the entirety of my existence that the person complained about us buying their clothes, and it was a mistake. And I gave the woman back the clothes. She kept the freaking money. She never deleted her review. I was like, explained to her, I was like, no, that was out of fashion. That's why I priced it down. This was 4 years ago when skinny legs went way out, in a tight skinny legs. Well, she had $109 pair of Joe jeans, and oh my God, you priced them at $12.99. I'm like, the only reason we bought them is because they're Joe's and they're 12. I said, we're probably gonna donate them in 3 months. And she's like, oh, no, they're worth so much more. So I'm like, okay, take them. But she gave us a 1 star for that. But anyway, look at the other places and look at how many ratings are about what they offered me and how much they paid me. And so the point is we're paying more, it seems, a lot of times, and our prices are a lot lower. So both sides, people are happy on the outs coming in, so I'm able to keep the prices low, but because we do such a volume, I can still make the money I need and not raising prices. But we're actually now, certain things are starting to happen that are causing certain things to have to go up. For instance, silver has been up over 75% this year. So it started the year in the mid-20s, 24, 25. It hit $50 an ounce yesterday. So it's more than double, So I still have to buy the stuff. It's not like nothing's donated to us. That's where people think thrift, they think it's donated. We have to buy it all, so nobody gives us the sterling rings. My price of sterling rings has doubled this year. I can't keep selling those for what it was because I'd lose money. As a matter of fact, yesterday, I thought when it hit 50, I went in. I'm retired, so it was closed. And I try to stay out. Too many open hours. I don't want to be there because people start thinking, you're just lonely. So I went through and grabbed my scale for all the big pieces, and I found 12 items in my jewelry cabinet that you could have bought from my store and brought to a refinery and got more money than you paid me just for the silver because it's gone up that much. Because I'd priced them, they'd been in there for 9 months, something like that. And silver, unlike everything else, and I'll pull it out. I won't lower prices because it's an intrinsic metal, which means the metal itself has value, so I can't go below that. So what's gone on is we're having to revisit our sterling. We're thinking we might have to cut back on that because the prices are going up so much. Now what happens is you have a $5.99 shirt and a $30 ring. Just people freak. It's like, I saw your reaction. You weren't aware.
Yeah.
Very few people are aware. So therefore, they're like, oh shit, last year I bought a ring here, it was $12. Why is this $28? And so those type of things. So what I've done is this. I've tried through the years different forms of trying to figure out what people, how they'll take certain, so one day, this is many, 30 years ago, so all my prices are 99 cents. I've never liked that. But what had happened, I told you, I started with more than one person. There were 4 of us. It was myself, my wife, Bob, and Karen. Well, I guess somehow we all came up with 99. So one day I said, just make everything 0. So the $2.99 went up to $3. The $4.99 went up to $5. Oh my God, we had a revolt. It was crazy. People were like, oh, you raised your prices. Yeah, a penny. So I went back to 99 cents, left that there. So what we're doing now to make up the difference, because minimum wage went up another $1 an hour. So that's, that affects us. So what I do is, whenever we're pricing something, is this $5.99 or $6.99? And so I just told my employees, look, when you have that moment, $5.99, $6.99, so we're gonna raise our prices. If you can't decide, make it $6.59. That's 60 cents. If I sell 40 of those a day, I'm back to even 25 bucks. That's what my 4 people, $4 times. Actually, I need to do 60 a day is what I figured out. It was like $36 kind of thing. It was to make up that $1 a day, whatever, that's $200 something a week. So, but nobody has said anything about those raises. And so I do things like that because I still, even though prices are going up everywhere, and I don't want to be that person going, prices are, it's not going up everywhere, but the overall, the last few years, after 10, 15 years of or very low inflation for years, it's felt, But then again, my first house, inflation was 18%. My first mortgage was like 14%. It was crazy. But then again, the house was $42,500, but that's a whole other story. But, okay, so next question.
You kind of touched on this before, but since you were talking about pricing and kind of quality of clothes, what's your perspective on fast fashion within the thrifting community?
Well, the thing about fast fashion is it's not intended for longevity. So while it's one of those, it's kind of the same conundrum I've had with leather for many years. And what I mean is this. When I started the store, I was militant in my views. I was young, and most people who start out their views are militant because they are convinced they're right. Well, I was convinced I was right. So I was vegan, no leather, no this. I haven't eaten a piece of meat or chicken since 1982, my thought went three ways. Was I talking about chicken? No, what was I talking about?
The fast fashion.
Okay, so fast fashion, the problem with fast fashion is it's not made to last. So the issue is when you resell it, you get unhappy customers because seams come out, shit happens. And the only time we do, Shein has some really awesome shit along the way. But I don't know how much you know about them. They're a Chinese company, and the reason why they took over the world so quickly with their fast fashion was because being a Chinese company, they realized really quickly the way Chinese manufacturing works is what's called net 90. Net 90 means I give you your product today, you have 90 days to pay me my bill. So what they do is they say, okay, we pay you up front. So what would happen is where Forever 21 producing in China, they're 3, 4, 5 weeks out until they hit them. Shein would come in, we want that fashion, make it today, here's the money up front. They skip all these people who are gonna pay them in 3 months from now and do theirs, and they're out the next week ahead of everybody else. That's how they got to be to the top of the food chain. But the thing about it is the very reason why I started why I did, because their idea is it's not about the planet, it's about them making money. And that is, to me, the thing we're in. It's politics, it's capitalism. You have people who feel that there's more value to this than money, and there's people who would kill for money. So those are the two competing. I was always on the other side going, it'll come sometime. I've never been on the street. I've never been broke. I've always I'd always come. I've always had that attitude. It's never is so. But fast fashion, all in all, I think it's like everything through the years has been made faster, on and on, to the point that fast fashion is like the epitome of, okay, we've peaked. We can make clothes really cheap. We can make them crappy. Here's the biggest difference, and here's the difference between fast fashion and not the difference between, but there's two types of, what do you call it? This word thing, looms that produce denim. The old school one takes a long time. It's the selvage denim, blah, blah, blah. And then there's the modern one, which is, I forget the name of it, but it's like, it's not regurgitate, but it comes out so fast that's what it's named. It's like it spits out so fast. So it has like a regurgitating sort of name. So the difference is this, the quality is not, there's the first one, the denim that came out today is the same that came out, the exact same per square inch that came out 5 years ago. And so when you buy a $200, $300 pair of jeans, and if it's your size, you order another pair in 5 years, it's gonna be the exact same cut, the exact same fit, the exact same everything. You know how it fits. You buy a pair of fast fashion jeans, it's gonna be a different fit. Why? Because the denim is different every time they get it. The stitching count, the stretch, it's always a little different. So the quality is down, it's thinner, it tends to wear out quicker, et cetera, et cetera. So it's one of those things. I also flipped many houses in my life. Now I'm into restoring them because I love the old, but the simple thing, and again, Walmart, don't sue me. If you paint with Walmart paint, this is an average. It dries at 0.7, I forget the exact measurement, microns or millimeters thick, I forget which measurement. Well, a really good paint is dries at 2.1 thickness. So you want to go buy Walmart paint, you're going to put on 3 coats. So yeah, you may save, no, you're not, because the first thing you're paying $60, you paid $20 a gallon, but you needed 3 of them. You do the work of 1. So sometimes it's like people jump to, it's cheaper, therefore I'm going to buy that. Where fast fashion, sometimes they end up buying, where fast fashion, I think there's no good uses for fast fashion, but the very few times are, I have a wedding and I need something, one-time use. And you don't want, you don't want to buy it new, it's expensive. I get it. But I see it, but those are the people who are, it's all about the money. It's not about what we're doing and how we're handling our world, et cetera, et cetera. So the difference is, you might have those 3 pairs, you may have spent $600 in your life, and you have 3 pair of jeans that last you your life. You bought 48 pair of Forever 21, not Forever 21, they're gone, Shein jeans that all look weird and someone fits you differently, and yet you think you're saving money. So that's the issue with fast fashion. The problem comes in with the front end, and that is, in our society, there's too many people who don't have enough. And we'll never, until we create a society that we all have our basic needs met, what did I say? Basic needs met, whatever. We're going to continuously have people who have to buy, they could go thrifting, but they look at the fast fashion because it's so much cheaper. That's where the problems come in. Society, right now we're doing everything to destroy our world. I didn't know autism was caused by circumcision. That's all that. I cut my finger. I think I'm autistic. Anyway, I don't think let me say this better. I know the issue comes in with fast fashion is it's supported by so many people who don't think. And that's the problem. I can't tell you. I can tell you in my store, the bag question. We don't charge for bag. I really want to, but I can't. I still can't get there. What I did is I used to say, hey, would you like a bag? One day it hit me, because the total different subject. The command of the English language is very few people have. So I changed it when I did a survey. One week I'm like, 48% of the people said yes. The next week I said, do you need a bag? 27% of the people said yes. So they would stop and think. Literally, I'd watch them say, I really don't need one. But if the same person said, would you like a bag? Yeah. I made them think by saying, do you need? So there's so much more to that in the English language. We'll leave that all behind. What was the question again?
Fast fashion.
Well, I've gone through. But the thing is, when there are certain people who's like, yeah, plastic, double it. You can see they never even stop to think. They don't think about, I got a little one t-shirt. I'll never use these bags. I'll throw them out. I'm walking in my car 10 feet. But they don't think. And that's the issue is, in this world, we're going farther and farther into this issue of divergent facts, divergent knowledge. We're all getting more and more, farther and farther, sourcing our information, and one person might, simple example, I won't go into politics much. I was reading this morning, I stay off of social media like the Facebook, except because I don't want to get into these social, but I happened to, somebody sent me something, so I looked, and the first thing was like, somebody was like, post something like, Publix is the only grocery store in Florida that is allowing open carry. Mm-hmm. And the first one is, fake news. And so the next person just posted a link to the article. Person had clicked reply to fake news. Like, you know what? We're at the point that it doesn't matter what you believe, what you think. It's going to be reality is no longer and I hate to say this is the whole Make America Great crap. It was slower, it was different, but it wasn't better. It was different. But they liked better because they were white and old. They had maids who were of other colors. There was a world that they enjoyed more because they felt the king and queen. They weren't just another different person out there. So that, well, there's a lot of things going back, but still going forward, it's a judgment. Next question.
Okay, so you've kind of talked about how many times you've been interviewed by all the students throughout all the departments here. So you're a little bit of a UF celebrity.
No.
Why do you think that is?
Well, because, what happens is when you have a class, and the teacher says, the professor says, write a book about a local business. And you've been into the Flashbacks, and I like this place. And hey, they seem to be friendly. I think people go, hey, I seem to, I've talked to them, maybe I'll try there. We get, for a while there, I was getting an email a week. About 2 years ago, I don't know why, I had 2 movies, but just what it is, I think, more than anything is, I love what I do, and I think it shows. And I that's one of the things that makes anything better. If you love it, you're gonna do it with more passion, and people see that. People know that. And I'm not blowing smoke up my ass, because there are people who would love hate, and that's their thing. I find such joy in it. It makes me so happy. I'd rather give than get. That's who I am. I'm sorry. That makes me, my daughters, but when Tatum was young, I used to have my birthday. At 5 o'clock, I'd have a birthday party for her friends, for me, and I'd buy them all gifts. And the best part was watching their little faces as they opened it. That was the best gift in the world. And so, what can I say? Anyway.
Right. Can we find those movies about you anywhere?
I hope not. A few have been a few have said we posted it. A lot are class projects. A lot of them are class projects. There was one I think I told you about, the one that they changed it to about me, my spiritual, blah, blah, blah. That one, I never saw. I was too embarrassed. Because after I heard the feedback, I'm like, I can't even. Because, like I said, people were like, I wish old people would talk to me like this. I'm like, okay. Anyway.
How many projects do you think you've done total?
Okay, there's been like 3 types of projects. There's the one they come in for an hour and interview me, and that's it. The next one is they come in with a camera and interview me once or twice, and then they're the semester-long projects where, hey, there's a group of 4. This is what our idea is. Here's this. What are your feedback? And we'll film this. Then we're gonna come back. We're gonna do this creative movie. And this one in particular, I had to go meet them out on a park. I had to meet them somewhere else because they wanted different settings, different time, different clothing, different this, that. So there was their idea. They wanted like a period of time of talking to me, kind of thing. So everybody had a different thing. I don't know the number. What I always found was, everybody's different, obviously, but the students who came in there with a positive, just fun. It wasn't like, this class sucks, work. I didn't get a whole lot of those, so it was always fun. I never minded it because I was like, I think sometimes I talk to listen to myself because my little brain works in the way, my thoughts go so fast some days that I keep forgetting because I'm like 3 thoughts ahead and like, which thought was I on? But it just, yeah. Next question. I can keep going on.
So we're kind of like the more fun, kitschy questions now. Do you have a vintage piece or like a holy grail piece that you've ever found?
No, but Tatum could do that for you because she had. I'm sure she had. Yeah, her punk label, that girl's collection, amazing. But she actually, I bought a few. I gave her 3 Titanic. What was the name of the company? They did of course I can't. I can see their label. They did 5 real, authentic reproductions of the 5 dresses from. Then they were $2,000. J. Peterman. They were $2,000 a dress. A guy came in. He had all 5. His wife passed away. He had bought her 1 a year for 5 years, something like that. And it was long, but I gave Tatum 3 of them. because she appreciates them so much. I kept 2 to sell when I need. But just so many stories like that. But no, personally, fashion to me it's been so changing that I don't have any fashion pieces. I have a few pieces of clothes that moments of time happened in them. I like them for that. Not the fashion. One of my favorite, funnest fashion stories is going back to River Phoenix. 1990, I forget, I want to say 92, 93, I forget, a Rolling Stone. I had this plaid shirt that I loved, and I wore it for 6 months. And like everything, you're in a store of clothes, and that's 6 months, time to get rid of it. I put it in the store. It was on the cover of the Rolling Stone on River Phoenix. Oh, wow, that was kind of cool little thing, but nobody would ever know but me, and everybody I told. But that was really, there's a lot of fun little things. You're a bit of a UF celebrity. Okay, next.
Okay. So you've kind of touched on this already, but where do you expect the business to go in the future?
I don't know.
No?
Because here's the thing. I can tell you, I feel like this, I can tell you what I think, but I've always been wrong. And I don't mean that in a flippant, here's, in 1986, I'd ever be computerized. Although I had computers, what I did, how I made a living at the time to open the store, I started a company called PC27, PC, Programmers and Consultants. 27, long story, numerology is the number of God. 3 times 3 times 3, to try it. So that I would do things, but I didn't really, yes, I knew computers, but who, was that stupid? Who knew? So then fast forward, there's so many stages along the way I didn't know. I had rough ideas, but the thing is, I gave it to her because I think she's going to imagine things I couldn't. And so if I tell you where I think it's going, it's me sticking to being I want it to go the way I want it to go. And let's say it this way, I love her. And I just know she's going to make it better than I ever could, because where it is now, where she has the ability to take it because she has some money behind it to reinvent itself. And the thing about Flashbacks is, yes, believe it or not, we're always reinventing ourselves, because just like fashion, every generation, and we're talking 8, 10 years, we're not talking generational, is different. And we have to approach that group differently. And the crazy thing is, and I'm always shocked about this, it seems like it's so obvious, but so many companies some companies really get it. The ones who market to young kids, I'm always like, you're smart, because they're going to be there for life. You don't want to market to me. I'm dead in 20 years. Why waste your advertising dollars? So there's different ways to do the same things, but anyway, okay.
Okay. So what's next for you?
If I knew, I've got so many things, but one of the craziest things happened to me very recently. The last week I was at the store. 2 weeks ago, I retired September 30th. That was last Tuesday. The Monday prior to that, somebody called and said, "Hey, my son just bought a house. I'm just calling to see." I had this done a lot. And the words were, "I'm not looking for an appraiser per se, but I shopped in your store back when you had stuff, and you always seem to know what you're talking about. Really what I want somebody to do is come out and just say, hey, can you just don't sell this at the estate sale. This has got more value. That's all I want you to do, but we've got a bunch of clothes. So if you're interested, we'd be happy to sell you the clothes. And if you want to get paid for it, blah, blah, blah." So I went out. Oh my God. I've done this 40 years. I've never been to a pick. 3 days in, I still hadn't seen 2/3 of this stuff. I was there 8 hours a day. My wife was there 8 hours a day. Tatum was there 2 days, 8 hours. 2 other people were there with us. We never got. So what happened after those 3 days, I got to know the woman really well, and I found some gold while I was there. Because what happened, her son flips houses. He bought the house, and at the time it was a generational house. The father the father of the kids who sold it was the anthropology dean in the 60s and 70s, I think. I forget exactly when, 80s, maybe a little later. But we found some passports that were full 50s, 60s. He traveled the world. Amazing stuff. But what happened is when they went in to look at the house to buy it, it was piled boxes. The house, they said the house was this high in box. It was a huge $1 million home. Long story short, when they went to closing, they're like, hey, the house wasn't cleaned out. Well, how much would you pay us to take this stuff then? No, are you kidding me? It's going to cost me a fortune to empty it. Okay, would you take it? No, it's going to cost me a fortune to empty it. All right, we'll take 5% off the price. Okay. Well, then they had a month. The kids went in there, ripped through some of the boxes. When they went back in, they're like, oh my God, I didn't realize the kind of stuff it was. Okay, so the last 2 days, she called me back. She said, Steve, I found gold and gave it to her. I found all this stuff. She's like, thank you, because you could have had that in your pocket. I found this jewelry. And she's like, I trust you. So the last day, she's like, 2 days, she goes, listen, my son wants it empty. He's got 2 days. The more you buy, understand this was an anthropologist who traveled the world. She had an estate sale. There was stuff I could not believe that wasn't sold. Make a pile. We filled this table and underneath the table 4 times that day. It was like shopping. It was like shopping here. Oh, grab that tiger, grab it. It was insane. This house was so big that we got there at 10 the first day. About 5:15, Liz calls. She's got, I found another closet. The next day when Tatum came with us, we're like, Tatum, you gotta come with us. She found another closet. It was that kind of craziness. Anyway, the last day, she's like, for X amount of dollars, take all you, the more you take, the happier we are. We were going to shelves, statues and this and that, stuff that I would have paid $100 for. We're getting it for $1. And it was like, I got to know these people. And after 5 days of dealing with them, we became friends. They invited us out to they have a house cantilevered over Santa Fe River. I'm like, I'm coming. Yes. They showed me pictures of how they drink their coffee. I'm like, oh, beautiful sunrise. Oh my God. Anyway, it was like the last day, they were very deeply spiritual people too. And we were talking and it's just like, it was crazy. It was like the universe, what they were going through, she's like, we needed this. And it was like the universe saying, thank you, Steve. Because Liz and I are looking at each other going, we can't believe how much, this is going to take us 6 months to sell on our own because I no longer have the store. I'm still going to consign stuff at the store, but there's so much stuff. And I'm not talking about average stuff. I'm talking about stuff I've only dreamed of owning before. Stuff that literally, there was this one lamp I picked up. I said, how much? I said, will you take $20 for that lamp? Is that a lamp for us? She said, sure. Because at that point, she's like, we take $20? Sure, take it. I pick it up. The base was this Art Nouveau from the late 20s, early 30s. Beautiful. It's like a $1,500 lamp. I neither saw because there was a bench in front of me. So all we saw was the top. We took it out. I was like, she's like, oh my God. I'm like, Rennie. She's like, you can have it still. I'm like, thing after thing. I mean, I can show you. I found a Democratic National Convention Day 2 delegate ticket. I found a World Series ticket from 1924. I found Confederate $100 bills, real ones. I mean, on and on. It was insane. And then the statues. I found this one statue. She sold me for $75. I still haven't read the maker's mark because I'm like, I was looking at this guy's stuff. He died in 1922. And, well, not this one. I'm sorry, that was the other one. So this one, I haven't looked at the maker's mark yet. And if it's a certain maker's mark, they're selling for like $18,000. The other ones are $1,800, $1,200, $1,500. I paid $75. I know. It was like, so what happened is this. Long story short is the reason I decided to retire, the actual reason is the building I mentioned, I'd sold it. Well, that's when we decided we're going to retire. It fell through. Oh, well, we're going to retire anyway. Well, so now we have all this shit to sell. And the thing is this, I'm not like broke. I'm not going to play I'm poor. But our whole thing is we wanted to leave as much as we can for our kids because it's so, life's wonderful and you love your kids. And hey, so we were trying not to touch our things. So now we're just going to sell this stuff to live off of that. We can spend money if we need. It's not like we don't have it, but this way we can still, in 5 years, we're not taking Social Security yet because of all the BS about it. But in 5 years we'll be taking Social Security and then we'll be on easy street and be like, My house is paid for, my cars are paid for. So it's like, it's awesome. But anyway, okay.
So,
What's that? Oh, last comments time.
yeah,
Okay.
anything.
Well, really, it's the I saw one comment up here, what advice to students. That really, because last year, 2 years ago, I guess, God, yeah, it's so fast. I spoke to, I was invited to business college to speak in front of the students, and I had a few students come to me after saying, thanks for talking, because once again, nobody ever says to you, hey, there are other alternatives in life. And when you're at a college setting, here's your path, here's your future, here are the company types of company. This is what everybody seems to think about. But I spoke about, well, I didn't find that was making me happy. And so that sort of thing. So advice to students is really if you're willing to not shoot for the stars monetarily right away, there's a lot of love and joy in life to be had. And there are rewards for those who wait. Because quite frankly, for 35 years, I did what I loved. I didn't have much money to show for it, but I did what I loved, and I had a great life. The last couple of years, wow, what the hell? I was rewarded, and it was like, wow, okay, I can retire actually. This is kind of crazy. And so it was kind of like that part of it. So really, it's kind of crazy walking. Every time I walk on campus, I get the same feeling, because I was here 50 years ago, well, 48 years ago, walking around. And it's the same thing, but it's so different in that I remember where I was and all that. But the thing that hit me the most is really how much I've grown and changed. And I have to test, because my life is flashbacks. I've not been out of Gainesville for more than 7 days since I opened that in a row, because it's always, somebody calls me back. I could go a week and not have a problem at the store. If I drive out of town, phone rang an hour out of town, POS is down. What do I do? Like, I'm not there. I can't do it. Anyway, so the point is less business. I think if more people would focus less on the fear of not having enough and focus more on what they have in front of them and the ability to do, I think we'd have a lot more content, more success. Success is a word that I won't use, because it's like good is another one of those words that some people think a certain person is good. I'm not so good. It's not a descriptive word that I like. So, but not success. I just think, I know that the long run, it took me a long time, and so it's so easy to say when I'm 66, but when I was 19. I came here when I was 17. I graduated when I was 21. I really was at that point in life, I was so lost. I was so out of touch with who I was. I didn't know who I was. I was afraid of me. I was afraid of the future. I was afraid of everything. I got lucky as shit, because I think when I say luck now, really, honestly, what I mean, I always change. Instead of, people always say good luck, I say good love. Because to me, it's all choices. It's not luck. Here's how the last thing I'll say is, one thing, advice is, instead of running from your pain, is face it, examine it, because you'll learn so effing much if you're willing. It moved me. I think Flashbacks is successful because I was afraid of my pain because I couldn't walk for so many years. When I started, that's when my spirituality opened. And I started really beginning to accept myself as your generation. I think I can ask your generation at my store so many questions, and I get the same answer over and over again. Would you like a bag? I'm good. How are you doing? I'm good. I'm good. It's good. So after a while, I'm like, I know you're good, but you need a bag. I'm joking. But all in all, it's a fucking amazing life if you're willing to Take chances. And it's funny, I was afraid to take chances too. It wasn't like I was this brave, oops, I didn't mean to rip that. Oh well, it's US Pen, you can. But I'd love to say, no, I wouldn't love to say it. But in so many ways, I'm a lucky little boy who just got, who through a lot of, I'm not willing to fail, because then I'm a failure. It wasn't a failure, it's like, we all wanted, I didn't really realize it. I just wanted my dad to say what he said many years later. I didn't realize that till he said it, and that's why it was so meaningful. But that's why I didn't want to fail, because I didn't want him to go, you have a degree, and why the hell do you do this stupid other thing? As my mom, who's very Jewish, hey, you're selling you schmatas. Okay, Mom, you'll never figure this out, but that's it. I have a lot of stories, but I think that Gainesville, and the other thing is Gainesville, the beauty of Gainesville is that because the University of Florida is here, we never grow old. Yes, some of us do, but the energy around us while we're growing old is not youthful, but optimistic. It's not young, it's vibrant. It's not the youth that I'm not looking at, because I don't want to be young again. Listen, this culture sells youth as, talk to most people 65 and older go, I wouldn't want to do it, because if I did it with the knowledge I have now, it would be unfair. And if I did it without it, I'd be suffering again. I don't want to go back. But Gainesville is a wonderful place, because the city sometimes is a pain in the ass in all their bullshit of permitting and this and that, but the people have been beyond the greatest gift the stores ever paid me, the customers had, because I just think about the amount of kindness and love and gentleness and sweetness that the people have been through that store. I am so lucky. And I'll end it there.
Right.
And that lucky goes back to love.
Thank you again for this interview.
You are most welcome, and you can have your pen back.